And if you share a home with a significant other and they're sitting next to you, then just grin and smile and pretend that you don't have any of these problems, even though we all do. Navigating around your stuff. You have stuff, they have stuff. Maybe you've had some arguments over the clutter. Stacey Erickson is a professional organizer here in our area, and she's here with some helpful ideas. Whether you're moving in with someone or maybe you've been living together for decades. Good morning, Stacey.
Good morning.
Now, you just got married, right?
About 6 months ago.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
So you just had to deal with the merging of stuff.
Yes, and actually it went pretty well at my house because my husband didn't bring anything with him when he moved in.
Solution.
Yeah, so that was really good. But I know a lot of people just don't have that luxury that I have.
Right.
So one of the things that I did when he moved in is I have a condo, but I wanted to make sure that he still felt at home, but we didn't have the dollars to remodel everything. So what we did when we moved in together is we took one room and just made it completely ours, and that was our bedroom. So it was yellow and we painted it blue, and he loves all this nautical stuff.
Aww.
So that's his ship wheel, and I love seahorses. So we kind of put all his stuff together with my stuff, and we made a theme, and we did that one room. And that worked for us because it felt like, even though the rest was super girly, we had that space together. And then in the other spaces, I kind of picked the stuff of his, which looking at it, I'm like, that's super girly too. But kind of integrated his special things into other areas of the home so that he could feel at home too, because I had lived there for, I think, 7 years at that point.
It's hard though, because let's say you both had the same amount of stuff. Where do you even start? I mean, and at what point, maybe I'll ask you this, at what point do you realize it's time to fight for your thing to stay in the room versus it's time to compromise?
I mean, I think it's always time to compromise because really, in the end, stuff is just stuff, and your loved one is your loved one.
Right.
So I think the most important thing is to be truthful about it. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to get rid of all my person's stuff, when they're not home. And that's just like the worst way to do it.
Yes.
Because if you're doing that, that's not doing a trust relationship, right? You really want to be able to trust each other. So my best advice for that is just to be able to get together, discuss it, and then make sure that it's a decision you're making together and not
so organize together.
As much as you can.
Any other tips for organizing when you are first moving in?
When you're first moving in, I mean, before the move is always the best time to do it. So make sure you're giving yourself a lot of time. If you can do an overlap, from one place to the other and spend some time just getting everything going, that's the best thing. And don't try to do it all in a day.
Thank you for saying that. That's too much of a challenge. What if you've been living together for decades and you've been cohabitating, and every now and then you bring up why is this room filled with stuff, or why is this corner always a mess? How do you, as a couple who's been living together a long time, tackle organization?
I think you have to give it time, because now that you're saying that, I'm like, we had that this summer, the corner. And so I'm being who I am. I'm like, okay, we have to do this now. But I really have to be like, okay, not everyone wants to organize at the drop of the hat every single second.
Right.
So giving it time and say hey, I'm hoping to have this done by this event or by this time. And then the other thing to do is I really have a bunch of systems to make it work. And I did this even with my old roommates, is if they have stuff everywhere, I don't necessarily want to put it away, but I might have a bin that I put kind of random stuff in when I want to tidy up. And that kind of makes it so I'm not getting rid of their stuff or putting it where they don't want to.
Right.
But it has a spot even when it doesn't have a spot.
And if it doesn't have a spot, you have a storage.
Definitely. So I've partnered with Sparefoot, which is an on-demand storage company. So I brought these. So when we got married, I spent a year and a half collecting this colored glass for our wedding. Aww. And now I'm we live in this tiny place, and I'm I want to keep this for our future home, but we don't have space for it. So using storage for those extra things, especially younger couples like us, we want to move to a big house and we don't have the space now. So sometimes you have to use things like storage to bridge that gap.
All right. Well, happy organization
Thank
for you. It sounds like it's working out so far. So we can trust you for these tips. Stacey Erickson, yes. Thank you so much. And for more information, you can check out homekeyorganization.com.